All right, hey guys, how are you guys doing? Everything's good? Awesome. Right, so I came to speak to you all about growing up in real time. Now, you're going to understand everything about this in just a few moments. But first, I want to say, like, all of you came here to the 140 conference to learn about the way that technology is changing the world, and the way it's changing all the time, and the way that it's impacting our lives. So I came as a 15-year-old student from Israel to speak about how it's changing my life personally, both in the educational manner and day-to-day life manner. So I'll start with education. So I can just assume that when you guys were younger, there were only maybe two ways to communicate with one another. Maybe phones, well, if you had phones when you were young, or throughout meeting one. Okay, I'm sorry. Or throughout meeting with one another. Now, those ways are okay, but they're not very efficient. I mean, just to say hi to a friend, you would have to go to his house and say hello, or call him up. So, but today, in the 21st century, the new technological innovations and new tools that we have for us are actually enabling us to communicate with each other much more efficiently. There are various chats, there are text messages, MMS messages, video chats are also very common. For example, last year I actually came to New York for my brother's graduation. Congrats, man. And meanwhile, back in Israel where I study, in Tel Aviv, there was a major review session for an upcoming math test. And I just felt that it was crucial for me to be a part of that test, a part of that review, just because the material was so hard and I really wanted it to succeed. So I was brainstorming with some of my friends, how can I be both in Israel and New York at the same time? Now, that's quite impossible. But one of my friends, Ryan, suggested, well, why don't you just do video chat? So at 4 a.m. here in New York, I opened up my computer and made a Skype call to my friend Ryan. And he put the laptop right in the front row of the class, in front of the teacher. And I was able to be an active member of the class in the discussions, answer questions. Of course, I couldn't go up to the board and answer them. But I was still able to be an active member of the discussion. And it was a great experience. And it just shows how the new innovations really enable us to be a part of things that we may not have been able to be part of 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Now, speaking of reviewing for tests, I just finished my series of final exams since I'm still in high school. Good job, Michael. And one of them was a major exam in biology. Now, in my class, in my school, we have a very harsh biology teacher, and it is known that his tests are very hard and very challenging. So one of my friends, Tal, who's also a hard worker, he started a Google document between 60 kids in the grade, and now that's everybody. And we had an agreement between us that every kid puts in a small amount of information, and that way, by the time of the exam, we will have a lot of pages of information so that we can study. Now, the nice thing about the Google Docs is that you can collaborate all in one document, and it doesn't have to be on real time. You can put your information now, and then 5 hours later, your friend can put his information. So it's a great tool to use when studying for tests, or when just doing general schoolwork, like writing an essay with somebody else, or writing a research report. And what was nice is that we started with about 2 or 3 sentences of information, and by the time that the exam came, we had over 20 pages. Now, I can just assume that even 5 or 10 years ago, the only real way to work with other people for a test was to meet with them, and even then, it could only be 1 or 2 people. And now, that wasn't very efficient. I mean, 1 or 2 people is nice, but here, due to the new tools like Google Documents, I can now study with 50 people at the same time or at different times and still get even more information done, and it's very nice. Now, another way that technology is improving my education and changing the way the education is taught is throughout online courses. And actually, the way that people learn the material, not only study for tests, but also the way that people actually learn the material. So, example, during this summer, I took a challenge upon myself to do a math course. And that math course is a year-long math course, but I wanted to do it during the summer to condense it into a 2-month period. Now, of course, I couldn't bring my math teacher that's in Israel. I couldn't just put her in my pocket and bring her here to New York. It's quite a hassle. But actually, I did something quite similar. So what I did was I looked up online and I found dozens actually of teachers who put on free videos accessible online for download and streaming. Now there are hundreds of videos that explain clearly the material, and they're actually quite better than my math teacher, sorry. And these videos, I actually downloaded them, and I was even able to put them on this small device, on the iPod Touch. So I was able, even on the plane, to watch these videos and learn almost an entire math course. So that's just another way that technology is really changing the face of education and the way that children and the way that people can learn the material. Now, just 4 days ago, I came here. I was on my way to New York, and I was in the airport. And I heard this good song on the radio. But I recognized it, and I really liked it. But I didn't quite know what the name of it was. I didn't know what the name was. And what I did, just immediately, I took out my iPod. I went to Shazam, which is an application that listens to a song that's around you, and it gives you back feedback on what the artist is and what the name of the song is. So I put it up against the speaker. I waited maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and immediately it told me that it was Hey There Delilah by the Plain White T's. And almost instantly, I was able to download it onto my iPod and enjoy it during the flight. So just in a matter of about 30 seconds, I was able to go from a song that I don't know and I really want to hear to a song that I already have on my iPod and I have all the information about. Now, another example of where I use these applications on trips is over in spring break. I went to Italy with my family for vacation, and we walked into this great restaurant, and the food was great. I mean, the smell was amazing, and I was really looking forward to eating the food there. But there was one problem, and it was quite a major one. There was no English. I didn't understand anything that was there. The menus weren't in English. The people that were telling, they didn't speak English. So I was sitting there looking at the food, frustrated that I didn't know what it was actually, and I didn't know how to order. So fortunately, I had the iPad with me, and it has this application, Google Translate, which enables me to input some words in a certain language, like English, and then get them back out in a whole different language, like Italian. So I went from item to item, and I typed in the words, and I got back the words in Italian. So I knew what I wanted to order. I wanted pasta, pomodoro with all the cheeses. But now there was a second problem. How do I communicate that to the waiter? I mean, he didn't speak English either. So another new tool that it has is that I can speak into the device, and I get the exact same words, but in a different language, and it spits it out. It spits it out. And so I was actually able to have a whole dialogue with the waiter just using my iPad. And by that, I was able to order in the food that was amazing. Now, these are just examples of how the new innovations in technology can really affect even the small things in life. I mean, even 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to go into this restaurant and eat the food, which was quite spectacular. And it just shows how these little things really affect our lives, both in education and day-to-day activities. Now, all these examples that I shared today really express how technology can solve many small problems that you may occur, whether in education or in your day-to-day life. Whether you need to translate something quickly and order pasta, you have Google Translate. If you're stuck somewhere, you have maps. You need to get directions. If you need to hear if you want to know what song is that you're hearing on the radio, but you don't know what it is, then you have Shazam. If you want to learn a math course over the summer, you have the internet at your service. All these things, and of course, these are just a few minor examples. I mean, there are hundreds, there are thousands of examples that just exhibit the same thing that I'm expressing now. That technology can solve many, 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 many problems that you may face now, and in 10 years, they will be able to solve many more. And of course, I wasn't able to speak about other. Sorry, 1 second. I wasn't able to speak about other terms like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, because they need a whole new discussion for themselves. But I hope that I expressed what I wanted to show, that technology, the new innovations really let you do things completely different, and do things completely different than that the previous generations, like you guys, couldn't do. Thank you.
You're 15? Wow. 15 years old.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Do I have time just to like 2 questions, if they're interested?
Sure.
Awesome. So if you have anything you want to ask or interested, yeah? Huh? I used to use it a few times. I mean, I use just so many things on the web, it's hard to keep track. But yeah, I mean,
Next question.
Okay, I'll find next person.
Next question.
Anything? All right, so it was great, and I hope I got my message across.
This is awesome.
Great.
Really.
Awesome.